Hey everybody, it's Miller Time again. Trying to post some stuff for newer people, which I would include myself there. This is my first time really making it this far in the game, level 88. Not saying I know a lot, but I learn something new every time I play this game. So I'm just trying to pass on what I'm learning. Back to what I had mentioned before, talking about the PoE planner. Um, it's very useful. Um, Even if you're using a guide, you can still mimic that tree and kind of play with it yourself if you kind of start to understand the game. One of the most helpful tools, for me at least, is um, so I'm using Summon Raging Spirits this build, right? Then you can look at a gem and you can check out what it does. So the quality, you can see what the quality enhancements do to it, and then the different versions of it: anomalous, divergent, and phantasmal. You can do this for any gem. It's extremely helpful. I'm sure some of you have looked up different versions of your gems on the trade and noticed that some of them are expensive or not. So you can kind of check it out here and see if it's worth it for your build. Um, you can look at your stats. You can also, when you place the equipment in that you're planning on using, then your stats will be updated with that as well. Something else about using PoE Ninja, how I spoke about reverse engineering the build and whatnot, seeing why they're using it. It's excessively helpful when you look at the different items. And you can kind of mimic that, see if you can afford it. But just know some of these top builds that have these uniques on them, they're going to be probably expensive because they're popular. And the top builds have them, so everybody's going to be copying that kind of stuff. Another thing, when you're trying to... Let me go back to my game. So when you're trying to do your skill tree, right? When you're lower level, I would say below 75, I would focus more on the tree itself, getting a couple of gems put in here that'll help you out. But something, once you get a little later in the game, or even if you get high level, let's say you make it to 80 or 90, you can always refund points and start adding these cluster jewels in. If you're not really sure exactly what you want to put, again, I learned the items from looking at other people's stuff. To be honest, at this point, I did try to look at patch notes this time, this season around, but I don't entirely understand everything there is in this game. I mean, there's just so many items. So I kind of go through the list and look at different people's stuff and see if it makes sense to me. Obviously, a gem similar to this I've placed in my build. You know, mid deal 10% extra damage, and then Feasting Fiends. I do a lot of lookups on PoE Wiki. So you can go on PoE Wiki, look up all kinds of items. Let's see. Let's turn to Marcher's Eye. This. So you can search the item. If you see in someone else's build, obviously, and you're trying to learn the game, you can look here and see what it is this item is. I do this all the time for items. I do it for different effects like the corrupted blood. I kept dying to it. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Bleeding damage. It tells you how different things scale. Let's look up armor. Just so you can see. So then it tells you the mechanics of it. It mitigates physical hits, right? It'll tell you about dexterity, your energy shield, all that stuff. It's very helpful to use PoE Wiki. I'll also put a link to this in the description. Another thing, if you're really just starting, and like I told you in the last video, use a guide. I highly recommend using a guide. I use a guide. I think I have like just over 400 hours now, but all last season I used a guide. And then something to look for. Let's say you have a class you already kind of want to play. Look for these league starters. The league starter builds, obviously, you can start the league with it. It's typically, to start out, it's a cheaper build. You can get to end game on it without having to buy some crazy gear. Obviously, you can add better gear to it later and become godlike. But you can get a game going with the league starters. I would highly recommend doing those first. Especially these ones like I mentioned before, with the hardcore. It'll give you more defenses than it would for the softcore. Or even if you look for the solo self-found tags, because gear's harder for them to get. They can't use the trade. So just pay attention to these when you're using a guide. There's all kinds of people that have uploaded, big YouTubers, Twitch streamers. Obviously one of the most in-depth guides, probably, and almost everyone talks about it online, is Pox's Righteous Fire. It is a league starter. Righteous Fire is excessively popular. A lot of the items for the in-game are very expensive, but you can get it going and you can do well. I have a buddy right now running it. He's not near being anything like crazy. He's just, you know, a normie playing the game, just like most of us. Another thing that he mentioned to me, we were talking about the other day, was on the Atlas tree. My Atlas tree probably not the best, but hey, I like it how it is. I tried to go for some essences, and I'm liking to run some delirium, try to get some more packs, some more experience out of it. I like Einharp because I like getting the gear out of there. Probably a noob mistake, but I like going to the bestiary tree here so I can get some monsters to hit and get some unique items and different currencies. Rogue's Exiles, they're going to drop additional awards. They're not too bad to kill. I took this node as well. I feel like this is a good newbie node. They deal less damage, but they have more life. So what if it takes me longer to burn them? They're not hitting me as hard. That was my expectation there. But my buddy put me onto this node here. Stream of Consciousness. So before you're running tier 16s, or if you've ever heard the term like juicing a map, that's when they add like the scarabs and whatnot. If you're not, and anyone in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're not juicing your map, this would be a good node to choose, just because you can throw a map in there and everything you have on the Atlas, including this node, if you read it, it gives you some more encounters and everything else that there is to offer. So for someone not juicing, which I'm not at the moment, I thought this was a pretty good node to take. Personally, I like Abyss. I mean, it's your tree. This is my tree here. I like Abyss, and I've noticed that Breach has a lot of good encounters, so I'm gonna start going into Breach a little bit. I might spec out of the bestiary a little bit going forward. I have a pretty good little stack of monsters in the menagerie there, so I did like Heist a lot when we first started, but and it dropped a lot of currency. I feel like in the level 70 area, I was getting better currency here around level 70 than I was for running maps, so I would hit that up, getting a lot of chaos orbs out of it. But yeah, I definitely need to rework this a little bit. If anyone has any tips for running through the Atlas, getting it a little better, please help me out. Please help all of us out. But my idea was to get these percent drops right here and to get a little essence drop. And I'm going to keep going into essences. I'll probably pull this and just go straight through the middle later and go more towards this side, getting the breaches. If anyone has tips, please comment below. Like the video, subscribe. Um, hit up the kick stream if you like. I'm just in here vibing, listening to music half the time. I'm trying to learn more, so teach me, and I'll push this out to whoever. I don't want to take complete credit for anything. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. I think Zaz is one that I watch a lot, and Pox, obviously. Sometimes I just go through and read their guides just because, like I was talking with the PLE Ninja, just reverse engineering the builds. I mean, they go through and explain, and even if you're not using that build, they explain very well on why you're using this item and how it connects to the build and how it interacts with the game and how it interacts with stats. So just getting knowledge on this game is pretty hard to do as a beginner, just from trial and error. Like, you can make a build, get through Act 10, feel like it's doing decent. You run your first map, boom, you're just getting slaughtered, and then it stops being fun for you. I don't much play in a group too often. Sometimes, if my friend has like a map or something I might need, sure, but I don't do it too often. And as far as yeah, I lost my train of thought for a second. Just look through those guides. Definitely read those guides. Look at the interactions. Get some knowledge on the game. I highly recommend you look through PLE Ninja. Just search through some of the items people are using. Let me see. Let me get it pulled back up. My bad. I apologize. So yeah. So as far as running a bunch of uniques as a beginner, I feel like that's okay. You don't really know how to craft very well yet, and you might not have the recipes. I mean, I didn't. I'm still kind of learning. You don't know about the influences and things of that nature, which I'm still barely touching on it. So I'm not going to act like I'm some kind of expert. So I'm very far from it. But something else you can do here is, for me, I'm going to use my class that I'm running, Summon Rageous Spirits on Necro. Something you can do here, you can see the items and the percentage that people are using it, right? And some of these aren't excessively expensive. I mean, you just kind of got to do your research. I can tell you right now, this isn't so bad, but this thing, madly expensive. Watcher's Eye, I think they start at like 10 chaos. A lot of builds run Watcher's Eye. They have a lot of different modifiers you just have to look through. I highly recommend that most builds check it out at least, especially in the beginning. And then you can look at some of the popular passives, obviously. Masteries. You can look at the weapon types by percentage. Most people on this build are using sword and shield, but it tells you percentage of other people. Let's look at, Righteous Fire. That's madly popular. And then you can see the diversity there. Oh, there's a E. Alright. Righteous Fire. Yeah. You see numerous classes running it. Obviously these seem like a staple, but there's all kinds of stuff going on with Righteous Fire. It's all over the board. Don't mind the whole DPS thing. I know you guys want to get numbers. I thought that was the best case too, but these guys are in the millions. You don't need millions of DPS to have fun. I mean, more realistic, I kind of try to scroll towards the bottom to look at what's going on to somewhat emulate. Obviously, I want to see what the high DPS guys are doing, but they're typically going to have the better gear. So, again, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Check out my kicks. Kicks.com/militime91. I have Twitter, and I'm going to post this on YouTube. Obviously, that's where you're probably going to watch it. Feel free to comment. I'm trying to start this out, and I don't want to look dumb or crazy, so please help us out. We're all a community here. We all like PoE. I'm going to keep posting about PoE. So hope you enjoy the content. Hope you continue to check out my channel. Thank you.